Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
This is our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like.
Check out the podcast below in the description. Like the video.
Urban Meyer to the Jacksonville Jaguars, John. We've been talking about would Urban come back? Would Urban come back? Would Urban come back? Urban's back, and he's in the NFL. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible jolt to the league. I mean, they're getting one of the greatest college football coaches ever. It is a little weird when you think Urban Meyer, you think Florida and Ohio State. I mean, that's like, who'd you coach in the pros? The Packers and the Cowboys. Like, I mean, those are historic powerhouse, just the big boys. And now it's still the NFL. There's only 32 of them, but he's going to the 32nd job in terms of relevance, in terms of importance. Like, you can shit on the Lions all day you want. They do every year plan Thanksgiving, and they're a bigger market than Jacksonville. The way I look at it, guy, is he chose, and who knows, the Chargers pursuit. I got that one a little red flagged, but it was clear the Jags pursuit, right? They're having him on the yacht with Tony and Shad. Tony's led a pretty normal life. And the Texas pursuit, which I think if we go back probably within 5 years, and it might have been a little longer, maybe a little less, when they were going all in, remember, on Nick Saban. And it was like, what are they going to offer him? And I've heard from people that in the loop that said like $100 million, 10 years was on the table, right? Texas has huge money. That happened again within the last month, right? Before Tom Herman was announced that he was going to come back, it was like Urban might take the Texas job. And anyone that follows college football went, if he takes a Texas job, regardless how weird it is there, he's going to win. And he's probably going to win a national. There's no chance he doesn't win at Texas, right? Zero chance, because it has similar setup to Ohio State, Florida. He would have crushed it. And to me, at the end of the day, maybe he chose that he doesn't want to recruit, and he went to Jacksonville, which in theory is a good job. Has the #1 overall pick. I guess we'll probably get into his general manager. I don't know. Do you see that report? A guy named Trent Baalke?
I did see that. Well, I saw you tweet that. Yeah. I also saw Charlie Strong could be his defensive coordinator. Obviously, as we're recording this, we don't know these other things, but Baalke, yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, and so I guess Charlie Strong probably couldn't have been his defensive coordinator at Texas. But, yeah, the way I look at it is he essentially chose Texas over Jacksonville. And
other way around, but yeah.
Yeah, Jacksonville over Texas. And I'll give him credit for this. Texas, he just knows he would succeed there. Like, there's just no question. The Jacksonville thing is, I think everyone, well, he's like a Jimmy Johnson or, Harbaugh, whatever. There's still a huge risk, right, when you factor in he's never coached in the pros. I'm getting texts from assistants going, bro, you think this is going to work? And then I'm like, I don't know, do you? He's like, well, he better hire NFL assistants. Because now Urban is going to make a lot of money, but the other guys on the team are going to make a lot of money too, right? Yeah. More than his other coaches. It's going to be a challenge, right? It's not, to me, it's not a soft landing. Like, it's going to be a pretty intense job for him. There's a learning curve.
There's no doubt. I think one of the reasons I'd be optimistic about it is that Urban's calling card. What is Urban's calling card right now?
Leadership?
Yeah. Right? It's not Urban coming with, and the game has changed too. Like, now guys whose calling card is offense in college can transition to the NFL to some degree. But we'd say the leadership aspect is what Cliff Kingsbury lacks. And, we've talked about it. We like Cliff, the guy. He's not a superficial coach necessarily, but the winning just it's not part of his background. Urban has won, and you would say this for Urban. He has won, even though his players, well, he has won with high-level players, right, at the college level. Those are players who you have to compete to recruit for. You have to compete with the other big ego. It's just part of the deal is the high-end guy. So he has worked with the high-end guy. I think a few things in terms of the job opportunities. One, I'm with you on the Chargers. Like you said, there was probably some degree of using the Chargers to get the Jags to pay more money. When I thought about Urban, I think Jacksonville's in the state of Florida. That feels more right for me than Urban spending all his time in L.A. Urban's been spending time in L.A. on the Fox pregame show. And that doesn't – he feels like he would fit in Florida, and I think it's why he's going. I think it's part of the reason he's going.
I would agree there.
Also, the Chargers have a GM, so it would be, that's just a different dynamic. And as you've brought up before, the Chargers' expectation now is, look at all this talent we got. Let's go win 10 games and go to the playoffs. It's time to deliver. The Jags are in a different spot. Now, I've heard from somebody that Urban's plan basically, as he wanted to come back to football this year, was somebody who knows Urban told me he basically wants to coach 5 years and then hand it off. And in college, one of the problems is if people think you're about to leave, they use it against you in recruiting. And Urban didn't want to deal with that. Urban didn't want to deal with sitting in a living room in year 2 telling a guy, I'm here for the long haul, when he knows in his heart he only wants to coach 5 years or something along those lines. So I do think that as one of the reasons made sense for the NFL. And I do think the stress level, while the NFL is very stressful, college is stressful in a different way, in that you've got a million different bosses, right? Every booster thinks they can pop into your office at every time to give you their 2 cents. You're constantly recruiting. And from a recruiting standpoint, college football has only gotten more stressful since Urban left Ohio State. True. It was taxing when he was there. Now the portal is 24/7. You got to recruit the guys that are on your team to stay because someone else, some grassroots guy, is always telling them like, "Oh, this other coach you could come start here." So I do think from that standpoint, it's a much greater stressor. And then like the other part of it, right, is just the challenge of can I do this? Can I make this work in the NFL? He doesn't have the number 1 overall pick. Like if Trevor Lawrence is
with a quarterback that's viewed as a high level guy, so it's a double whammy.
It's going to be hard to fail if Trevor Lawrence is Andrew Luck. You combine like Steve Spurrier took over Washington, but his quarterbacks were like his college guys, right?
Yeah. Like I don't think he takes his job if they don't have the number 1 overall pick and Trevor Lawrence or a top quarterback is not in the draft, right? It's a perfect scenario. Like I don't look at it going, well, they have a bunch of cap space. Like that to me, we've seen time and time again, that's not the game changer. He thinks he has a chance to get a generational quarterback and then implement his leadership. And they're, for a team that won 1 game, like when you watch them, they do have talent, right? A couple years ago, they draft Josh Allen, LaVishka, DJ Charks, the little running back that they drafted. I think Robinson this year was a good, like they're not just some talentless. They have more talent than the Jets, for example, on their given roster. And then you factor in that they got 2 1s, and they had, I guess the Seattle Rams game, I was thinking about this the other day, had pretty big implications for the Jets and the Jags because one traded Jamal Adams and one traded Jalen Ramsey, and both had their 1s. So the Rams winning that game did make the pick a little shittier, but that's, we're talking incremental changes between pick 22 and maybe 24. This is a challenge for Urban. And I wonder if he goes, I have done this thing twice at Florida and Ohio State. And I proved my worth at both places. I have never, and listen, say what you want about Saban. I think he went 15-17 in his 2 years in the pros. But at least he can say, I coached in the NFL multiple times, right? I was with Belichick as a defensive coordinator, and I was a head coach. I do think there's something, if you are a football coach, like that is your profession, and you're that fucking good that you go, I've done it all, and I tried. Because I think a lot of NFL coaches never go, like Kyle Shanahan and McVay will never say to themselves, like, I got to try college. I do think the other way around, though, because they hear about some of the perks. And the perks used to be college going to the pros was money. Now, to me, the money's equal. And there are several head coaches in college that make more than a decent amount of pro coaches, right?
Well, think about this, John. Texas's new special team coach, who they hired away from Alabama, is making $1 million. How many special teams coaches in the NFL make $1 million?
Yeah, I'd say, maybe 10. I mean, there are some, but not, I would say not everyone makes 7 figures. Now, for example, every offensive and defensive coordinator, in the pros makes over 7 figures. Every defensive coach, I told the average is like $2 million in DC. So that's probably like it's more lucrative to make. You'd make $1 million if you're the coach at like Alabama, right? If you're the coordinator, but if you go to the Cowboys, you can make 2.5. So you see that a lot, right? Coordinators jump up for the money and maybe the next step. But I think he's just taking his swing. Like he got a chance. I wouldn't even call college football the minors because it's really hard. It's what Saban's doing is not easy, and Urban has beat Saban before multiple times. But I do think he thinks he gets to take just like a new swing at something that maybe he views as a greater, maybe he doesn't, right? He has a unique perspective because he would tell you Ohio State and Florida, that's a motherfucker to win. Now it's hard. Once you get it rolling, it looks easy. But Nick Saban would not say what they do is easy, right?
No. And your crowds are bigger, right? The NFL, I think he can make Jacksonville relevant on the NFL landscape.
I do think it has a limited ceiling. Yeah,
I mean, to me, but in the NFL, like, your ceiling is however many.
You're saying
games
if he's winning 10+ games every year, he's on Monday Night Football and everything a lot.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, and I think
you really see. You think so?
Yeah, I do think so. Now, a lot. What's a lot? I think if they're winning 10 games, because remember, the Jags used to suck. They'd be on Thursday Night Football. Then they got good, and it was like, oh, I like watching the Jags. Yeah, that one year. But I do think he can make the. But
there is a hierarchy in the NFL, a little bit like college football, where the big boys and just the brands kind of
for sure.
get
Like the Cowboys are bad, they're still going to be relevant. But to me, the hierarchy comes into play when you're not as good. The best teams still get treated like the best teams. I think it is a little more of a meritocracy when you're winning games. Now, if you're average and the Giants have 4 wins and you have 9 wins, yeah, the Giants still might get. But when you're winning 10, 11 games, everyone starts talking. Like, I think the Chargers are a bigger deal nationally than they are locally. The NFL is a national brand sport, and the way you get your attention is just by being. Because then it's like, well, if you have a chance of beating Tom Brady, if you have a chance of beating the best Andy Reid, you have Titans, Colts. They're playing a lot of big games in their division.
Where I do give Urban credit is he did not take the easy way. And again, the easy way is still difficult in this scenario. The Jaguars is a difficult proposition, right? His legacy is set because he's won national championships. He's viewed as a great coach. This is risky, though. He is no guaranteed to win. In his division, I think Mike Vrabel, if we did a coaching draft from scratch, I think you'd probably, not you, but the average guy would be surprised how many GMs he'd be in the mix, like with the Kyles and the McVays, the offensive guys, he would be right there. Frank Reich, it's clear they know what the fuck they're doing in Indy, right?
Yeah.
Like that program, the organization, it's solid. Now, they're not great, but they are way better than the Jags. I know the Jags beat them this year, but just in terms of talent and just winning every year. It's going to be difficult, guy. So I give him credit that way. Like, this could go wrong for a guy that has had a lot of things on the football field go right. Now, the one area that he doesn't have to deal with anymore is the moral bullshit. I'm not saying he's going to talk any different about like leadership and stuff. I think a lot of people, and I know myself, looked at him kind of fraudulent with just what always went on in his program and the way he talked. Because part of it in college is like helping guys out. Even at a place like Florida, half your team is not going to the pros, like setting them up for life. And that is real. Like, you've been around college coaches. That does matter to them because they are influencing humans' lives. Like, They get to meet people while they're dating their future wife, or they get an internship, and they just kind of see their life, kind of grow. But they get it at the part where it's just germinating and starting to like kind of grow. And Urban was like, well, bro, you got a bunch of drug dealers and murderers, and it's like, come on. In the pros, none of that stuff matters. No more life lessons. Which, if he still tries to push, I could see a lot of guys like, bro, I had this for 4 years when I played at USC Texas. Like, leave me alone.
I do wonder, like, one thing I heard him say it on Fox this year, how much he stays in touch with his former players that are in the NFL, right? So he hears from them what's working. He's talked about this. What
he's got a lot of them. He's got a lot of them,
and he hears what's working. I do wonder. He's talked to all these guys. He's hearing what works in their organizations, and he thinks, I do all those things. That's what I do. I can do those things. I'll tell you this. If I were the Jaguars, I would have hired Urban Meyer. I would have done it.
I agree.
So, yeah, it's risky for them, and it's risky for him. But for their organization, I think it made a lot of sense. I think it would have made sense for a number of organizations. But for one, like, they've had their coach was supposed to be fired, then he wasn't, and Coughlin, and it's just been let's get a guy. Now, to your point, his coaching staff is going to matter here. But
my way too early take is I'll be surprised if he has the success he had in college. And I'm not talking just winning nonstop, but just like consistently getting to the playoffs. If he were to like get the Jags in the next 4 or 5 years to a Super Bowl or something, he's going to go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time. Like that, he does. I don't think he has much to lose, but he has a lot to gain.
I'll tell you this:
Pete
if Trevor
went
Lawrence,
to another level.
Yeah, you're right about that. And he was much better.
They're kind of similar. I mean, he created
they
had a similar college resume, dominated top recruits.
If Trevor Lawrence is a good football player, if Trevor Lawrence is what is anywhere near what people think he could be, it's not going to go really bad either.
Agreed.
Then it becomes a low floor job. And it's good for the league. Urban Meyer in the NFL?
The league
the
got
Jags?
better today.
He's got a new brand. Sweet.
The league got more interesting.